different subject. How do you see the new digital technologies affecting high-end audio? And do they come into play in terms of your future designs?
We're not planning on producing any, 3D video products or anything like that. But in terms of musical quality, we've always designed our speakers to have very wide dynamic range. I used to chuckle back in the 80s, late 80s, when people would say that their speaker was digital ready. And of course, many of us knew that digital, frankly, was not as dynamic as the best analog.
Digital itself wasn't ready.
It wasn't ready, yes. And Cheryl used to say, yeah, digital's not Wilson ready. But it has improved, and of course, even Redbook CDs now can be produced to have a very valid level of quality. I'm not saying that it's not surpassed, but as you and I were discussing earlier today, what really makes the difference in whether the recording is a masterpiece or not is the quality of engineering that goes into making the recording. The resolution of the playback format only lets you see the quality of the content better.
Yeah.
And if it's got lousy content, then it's almost better not to see it as clearly, not to hear it as clearly.
Sure.
So in terms of, another question which is somewhat related to that is, people talk about, well, the market, the size of the market, is high-end growing or is it contracting, and, where are all the young people and so forth. And some people have said, well, that they take comfort and encouragement from all the millions of young people listening to iPods. And I don't. I think that if I were an ear, nose, and throat doctor, an otorhinolaryngologist, I would say, well, this is great for my future, all these kids.
Hearing damage, yes.
Yeah, hearing damage.
Yeah.
Another thing, though, about young people with their earbuds constantly on is what they're learning to do is to ignore music. Because they multitask. They're doing their homework, they're doing everything else, they're texting their friend, and there's always this din of music going on. And so they're actually learning to ignore something which is no longer rare or special. It's just a continuous part of their environment.
So it's almost a background activity.
Yeah. So I don't see that that's particularly favorable. On the other hand, access to reasonably good sounding material is easier than ever before. Because in the pre-digital era, you had to have actually a pretty decent turntable and pretty good LPs in order for it to sound at all decent.
Yes.
People just got used to the distortions and the noises and all that. And that was what made a good that was one of the things that made a good hi-fi as special back then, is it sounded so much better than the average. Now we're living in a period of where there is an excess of good enough quality, so that people can say, yeah, that's good enough. There's no obvious pops or ticks or hisses or pitch instabilities or any of the old bugaboos that used to plague us with poorly done analog.
Sure.
On the other hand, it seems that there is a percentage of society that simply has a love of music.
Yes.
And they will seek it out. And that's where our hope is.
Yeah.
And that group's not going away.
Sure.
And as long as the dealers can provide a compelling demonstration. I think the quality of the demonstration in the dealerships is so critical.
Yes.
If they can provide a compelling demonstration where people walk away from it thinking, I've never heard anything sound so good before. That was amazing. I didn't know it was possible.
Yeah, yeah. It's an education.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was wondering whether there's any validity in a communal approach in terms of high-end audio manufacturers. There's a communal approach to educating people about even the existence of high-end audio to people who aren't even aware of the fact that high-end audio exists by way of public shows, by way of maybe more mainstream advertising and so on, purely just to, to perpetuate the industry.
I've always felt that public shows are a great way for people to have experiences like that. I can remember in the late 50s and early 60s going to hi-fi shows in California and hearing things that were just amazing to me, and meeting some of the luminaries, you know, Saul Morantz and Rudy Bozak, you know, and these people that were very influential in my development of my passion for this, Paul Weathers and these other guys. And today, if you could have public shows, and you could have, for example, free passes for school kids, and to have some of maybe provide a discount for certain manufacturers. Let's say Wilson Audio, okay? So Wilson Audio would like to exhibit at the professional level, you know, for our dealers and everything like that, in a couple of rooms there, but then also to provide to Wilson at a discounted rate a large room, and to set up some kind of a compelling demonstration. I've always thought that it would be very interesting to pose the question to a group of non-audiophiles. What difference does it really make? Because we hear that a commodity like Bose is as good as it gets. Okay? So have a properly set up Bose system, and then a properly set up system that might cost like 4 times as much as the Bose system does, and then a properly set up system that would be maybe have something like Sophia speakers in it. And maybe that would be all you'd have to do, is go that far. I'm not suggesting going all the way up to Alexandria's and everything like that. But take the same piece of music and the same volume level. Because these little compact systems, they don't do dynamic contrasts. No. And yet, in our opinion, dynamic contrast is one of the most important qualities that is necessary in reproducing a sense of aliveness. And so just, you know, play something on that, and, well, what'd you think, you know? And then play the same thing on something better. And, you know, paradigm shift.
Yes.
And then go to something that we would consider high-end.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people would walk away from that saying, well, boy, I can't afford it right now, but there was no doubt it sounded cool.
Yeah.
It sounded cool.
And in addition to that, we also just recently accommodated Sewanee University. I don't know if you remember
Oh,
that.
right, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And that was an interesting thing. I don't know if you knew about that.
No.
The Sewanee University in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's a grand old university in the Southern style.
Right.
And there's a faculty member there who was a great collector of music, encyclopedic knowledge of music and everything, was able to share his love and passion of music and audio to his colleagues. And when he died, this friend of ours who's on the faculty, he's an English professor, I think English literature professor, he became the executor of that estate. And they had a dream that they wanted to create a music listening room for students where they could go in and hear a real high-end system with some fabulous recordings. And when I went to school at BYU down there, from 1964 to 1967, they had 2 hi-fi listening rooms that had university speakers in them. And I mean, these were big university speakers in those rooms.
Right.
And they had Thorn's TD-124 turntables and stuff and Stanton cartridges. And you'd go in there and you'd pick a piece of music you wanted to listen to, and the gal behind the glass wall, she'd play that record for you, and you could sit there and listen to a hi-fi that you couldn't afford.
Right.
And so in this system at Sewanee, they have Alexandrias that Peter McGrath set up. And the amps are, do you remember?
I don't remember the associated
Are they
equipment.
Air or
Might be.
VTL or?
Might be.
Yeah.
I was thinking VTL, but
Yeah. And so it's a serious system, and it sounds fabulous, and it's been written up.
Right.
That system's been written up.
I'll forward the article to you.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so, I mean, students there can hear this world-class system. Now, the only drawback with that is they may walk into that thinking it's just, they may walk into that room thinking it's the same as walking into a theater.
Yeah.
That, oh, okay, well, this is kind of equipment that people don't actually buy.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas at a hi-fi show, if you did it that way, then it would be very clear that these are products that people are buying, and this system that has the Sophias in it, that's not the most expensive hi-fi out there. And when you walk around this show,
You find
that out. And another thing you could do at a show like that is if it was Stereophile or whoever did it, would say that you have to, as an exhibitor, include in your literature something that is geared, it could be just a little one-page thing, that is geared to the non-audiophile, explaining your product.
Sure.
And that has to, be given out.
Yeah.
And I think that would help. I think it would help also, and it's hard for me to say this because, I should be doing it, but I've got all these other things, going on. I've got 12 grandchildren and,
Sure.
a lot of stuff going on. But I've actually thought it would be fun to create a high-end audio course at one of the 2 major universities here. We have Brigham Young University, which is the largest privately owned university in America. It's got about 40,000 full-time undergraduate students in it.
Right.
And then we've got Utah Valley University, where Trent goes, and that's a big university. That's got like 22,000.
Yeah, big.
It's big,
Right. Yeah.
And just a high-end audio class,
Right.
and the educate them as to what it is, what it's all about, the art of listening, and so forth, and
Sure. Maybe combine that with music appreciation.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.